All right, she lost an election, and now she's projecting. Hillary Clinton went on The View this week, which immediately raises a serious question. What's the weight capacity for that stage? But you'll never guess what she talked about. Her love of gardening, the things she does to stay healthy, how much she adores catching and cooking stray kittens. Nah, it was Donald Trump, as expected. But it's like I always tell Taylor Swift, girl, you gotta move on. Seriously, Trump doesn't just live in Hillary's brain. He's built a 500-unit condo with in-unit laundry and a rooftop lounge.
When Greg Gutfeld takes aim, no political heavyweight is safe, least of all Hillary Clinton. With razor-edge humor and unflinching candor, Gutfeld strips away the glossy veneer of political theater, revealing the real Hillary beneath the smiles and rehearsed sound bites. From the infamous email scandals to headline-making global missteps, nothing escapes his crosshairs. This is a mere criticism. It's a comedic demolition, topped off with a smirk and a mic drop. Buckle up.
Registered voters said any Republican would be better than President Biden, prompting one woman to legally change her name to NE Republican. In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon. Now, picture this. You wake up, stretch, sip your overpriced Starbucks latte, and think, you know what the world really needs? More unsolicited wisdom from Hillary Clinton. Because, of course, nothing says national unity like a politician who spent more time dodging scandals than a raccoon rummaging through a garbage can.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
And right on cue, Greg Gutfeld swung the wrecking ball. This wasn't just a political takedown. It was a Category 5 roast. Think verbal arson, public spectacle, and a delicate touch of a wrecking ball loose in a china shop. But hold that thought. We still have a Clinton to flambe.
Warning signals that you were gonna lose? Well, too bad you didn't bother to visit the states you ended up losing, you potato-shaped wine bag. But would he even be worse now?
I think that he'd be even worse now.
Yeah.
Because he was somewhat restrained, believe it or not,
Wow.
in the first term by people who he hired because he thought they would go along with him, and they...
If political comebacks were an Olympic sport, Hillary would be the Michael Jordan of missing the hoop entirely. Every 4 years, like a bad reboot, she reemerges from the fog in a freshly pressed pantsuit, armed with an even fresher sense of moral superiority. It's almost poetic. If poetry were written as parody by a team of consultants who all flunked ethics class.
They're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing.
Baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it, and it starts causing some real damage.
Let's take a nostalgic stroll, shall we? Back to when email servers hid in basements. Benghazi was just a dot on the map, and delete wasn't just a button. It was a way of life. Because nothing builds public trust quite like wiping 30,000 emails faster than a teenager hiding texts from their mom.
Hillary, what will happen if Trump is reelected? Which is odd because Hillary's an expert on not getting elected. I wonder, does she think it would end our country as we know it?
I think it would be the end of our country as we know it. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I hated losing, and I especially hated losing to him because I had seen so many warning signals during the campaign.
Greg didn't hesitate, eyes glinting with mischief. He was a political equivalent of dropping Mentos into a Diet Coke bottle. Only here, the Diet Coke was Hillary's legacy, and the Mentos were truth bombs rolled in sarcasm. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just tore through decades of carefully polished Clinton PR like he was opening a bag of chips. Sour cream, an electoral delusion, anyone?
Lefties always get all the commencement addresses, and they love to spout their opinions on award shows because they know there's no journalist there that will ask them a question. And the reason why, and he's the perfect example, none of their opinions are actually real. They are all assigned.
And then came the 2016 election. The brunch-ruining plot twist no one saw coming. Hillary was supposed to win. That was the script. Hollywood had the champagne chilling. Pundits had the headlines pre-written. And somewhere, the ghost of FDR was nodding approval. But then America said, yeah, no. She took it well. If by, well, you mean spending the next 5 years touring, writing memoirs, blaming Macedonia meme farms, and starring her own political remake of It Wasn't Me by Shaggy. Only instead of Shaggy, there was a revolving door of scapegoats. James Comey, sexism, Russia, misogynistic Wi-Fi routers, gluten intolerance, and, at one point, gravity itself. Meanwhile, Gutfeld didn't just poke fun. He went full Chuck E. Cheese with unlimited tokens, hammering every failed talking point, reheated excuse, and lukewarm hot take from Hillary's post-election pity tour. By the end, her record looked less like diplomacy and more like a failed audition for Mad Max.
Democratic Party's pocket since Hillary stopped having sex.
That's like decades.
Yeah. Losing the union endorsement is like P. Diddy running out of baby oil. There's a whole lot of friction ahead. When Teamsters polled their members about the Dems' new candidate, Cackle's McKnee pads.
And of course, the Clinton Foundation, advertised as a beacon of goodwill, transparency, and global problem solving, but in practice, about as effective as a DMV on fire. Millions of dollars poured in, yet somehow the world stayed stubbornly unfixed. Coincidence? Please. Greg, practically giddy, unwrapped that gift labeled hypocrisy, like a kid at Christmas. He painted Hillary's six-figure Wall Street speeches as less visionary leader and more customer service rep, reading off a gold-plated teleprompter, political lullabies for billionaires. With surgical precision, he peeled away the glossy narrative layer by layer until all that was left was an onion of ambition, ego, and irony. The tears that followed? Strictly from the audience, laughing so hard they couldn't breathe.
Alleged creator of the plan was Julianne Smith, a Clinton policy advisor that the unclassified Durham report refers to as Foreign Policy Advisor 1. And this woman, look how happy she is. She's like, I got away with everything. I nailed it. And then Obama made me the liaison to NATO. I mean, not Obama, Biden. Like I continue to get employed by these people because all I do is sit around and do the illicit bidding of my Democrat power.
Then there's her self-rebranding as a champion of truth. Bold move for someone who once claimed to be dead broke, while owning more real estate than Monopoly. Hillary's relationship with truth is like a vegan at a Texas barbecue. Awkward, strained, and full of contradictions. Yet she still manages to position herself as a voice of moral clarity in politics. That's like being the designated driver at a demolition derby. Technically responsible, but still in the wrong place. Greg's roast was so precise, it felt like a History Channel special, educational, but with jokes. He reminded everyone that Hillary has been in more scandals than most soap operas, but somehow with worse acting. Every attempt at relatable feels like it's been vetted by a focus group and tested on lab rats for authenticity. Drinking beer at a dive bar? Staged. Riding the subway? Staged. Breathing oxygen? To be confirmed.
Is wild. This is Hillary Clinton in like 2008, and Hillary Clinton saying some wild MAGA type shit.
Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they
She's a Republican.
If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. And you have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
You have to wait in line. You have to wait in line. It's
You couldn't believe that.
illusion.
And then came the kicker. the piece de resistance of Greg's roast. He lobbed a rhetorical Molotov cocktail, pointing out Hillary's uncanny ability to make anything worse just by endorsing it. Back a candidate? They lose. Support a policy? It tanks. It's as if she's cursed by the gods of irony. If Hillary endorsed gravity, objects would start floating. Meanwhile, the Clinton playbook remains the same. Deny everything, deflect always, and, above all, never take responsibility. Watching it is like watching a magician whose only trick is making emails, accountability, and credibility disappear. Is it unfair to blame her for everything? Maybe. Is it entertaining? Absolutely. Because nothing says fresh face of change like a politician who's been around since the days of dial-up internet trying to sell herself as a TikTok revolution. And don't get me started on the media cheer squad that follows her around like over-caffeinated pom-poms. She meant what she said. Too bad it never lands.
Of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
First of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate.
Greg didn't even break a sweat. He rattled off the facts with the kind of sarcasm that cuts deep in a tax audit. Hillary didn't even need to be in the room. The roast was so perfectly executed, Gordon Ramsay would have given it a standing ovation. But, like a political sitcom villain, she'll be back. Probably in time to drop another memoir titled You Thought I Was Done. Spoiler, she wasn't. As long as she keeps stepping back into the spotlight with the grace of a malfunctioning Roomba, Gutfeld will be there, microphone in hand, ready to set the stage on fire. And we'll be here, popcorn in hand, watching the slow-motion collision of political ambition and zero self-awareness. Because nothing says, I'm done with politics, quite like popping up in every news cycle like a haunted political Furby. Then there are the endless interviews, offering post-game analysis like a Monday morning quarterback with a grudge and a thesaurus.
That Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely full of shit. She's been full of shit.
She arrives in a perfectly curated blazer, delivers a few sentences of passive-aggressive wisdom, and smiles like she just remembered where the bodies are buried. Figuratively. Probably. The audience nods solemnly, as if she just solved world hunger in a single sentence. She'll say, we need to protect democracy, which, coming from her, sounds less like a call to action and more like a phishing scam wrapped in a TED Talk. The underlying message is always that democracy failed her, not the other way around. Greg's roast didn't just poke holes in this. It ripped the facade off, tossed it into the Hudson, and handed out binoculars so everyone could watch it float away. He revisited the pay-to-play, whispers polite society pretends to forget. The grin on his face said it all. I read the footnotes, too. Every time her team tries to repackage her as the wise elder stateswoman, the cracks show.
She puts out this tweet, and it's a picture of her, a much younger Hillary, and the caption on the hat reads, but her emails. And she writes in her tweet, bringing this back in light of recent news. Get a limited edition But Her Emails hat and support Onward Together groups working to strengthen our democracy. The nerve of this woman to have committed federal crimes and to have gotten off because James Comey didn't have the spine to break.
Greg reminded America that she's less Jedi Master, more corporate HR manager with a grudge and a Gmail problem. The audience devoured it. Finally, someone was saying out loud what most people only mutter at Thanksgiving. Hillary's entire political career has become a PowerPoint presentation of contradictions. Champion of women, unless they accuse someone she likes. Defender of truth, unless it's under subpoena. Fighter for the people, if they're pre-approved donors with strong Wi-Fi. The cruelest irony? After decades of branding, rebranding, strategic silent, and well-rehearsed talking points, she still missed the one thing that could have salvaged her public image. Genuine humility. The roast worked because it forced her to face the mirror she spent years avoiding. When the smoke cleared, When the last punchline landed and the laughter finally died down, one thing stood tall. The truth. Not the polished, consult-and-prove version, but the raw, unfiltered reality that maybe, just maybe, Hillary Clinton isn't the misunderstood savior of democracy she thinks she is. Maybe she's just the loudest person in the room who can't take a hit. Because in politics, Hillary doesn't just bring the tea. She is the tea. Bitter, oversteeped, and impossible to ignore.